and welcome to our Back to School Live event. My name is Natalie Vowell. I'm a board member, and this is Superintendent Dr. Kelvin Adams. We welcome you to this chat, and we would like to thank the Parent Action Council for actually bringing this back to the forefront of our awareness and looking for some deeper engagement with the community and more of a back and forth. So we're here to answer your questions. It's a chaotic time of year with school starting,
Yes.
so I know there's a lot of questions out there. And with that, I guess we'll just get started.
Yes.
What would you like to,
So
we have our back to school fair, right?
Yes. So first, Ms. Vowell, thank you very much for bringing this to back to fruition, such that we could have a conversation with the community. I first want to thank the supporters of the Prop S. Obviously, it passed on Tuesday with about 87% of the voters voting for it, and so that's really a big plus for the city of St. Louis and huge for the St. Louis Public School District. And we're hoping that we can actually start work about a year from now. And so we just want to say thank you to the board, quite frankly, for being having the foresight to put this on the agenda at this point in time such that it could be voted on. So looking forward to the conversation today. You mentioned the notion of the back to school fair. August the 22nd, the first day of school, but August 6th, Saturday, starting at about 10 o'clock. Obviously, we'll open the doors about 8 or 9 o'clock. There's a career fair tomorrow night, tomorrow afternoon for persons who are interested in working in public education, but other jobs all across the region. But the Back to School Fair is a great opportunity for families to come out, get book bags and supplies. And I know we're going to be talking about what we're doing, but this is for the entire region. We focus on students in the St. Louis Public School District, but it really is open to the 35,000 kids who are likely going to be going to school next year. So just want to put that out there right now. It's going to be at the Dome, and there will be transportation spots that parents can be picked up. If you look at our website, it tells you exactly where that will be. But we're looking forward to persons joining us. I know board members will be there. I'll be there. Mike McMillan with the Urban League, that's a strong partner in this work as well. So yes, that's the only thing I kind of want to talk about on initially. Then obviously we'll take questions.
Okay. Well, I did want to, while you mentioned the book bags, I've been getting a lot of questions about the school supplies. Where's the school supply list? When is that coming out? And thank you to everyone who has asked that question. And I'm going to let you talk about, again, the book bags and school supplies.
So the book bags and the school supplies, my leadership team really challenged me about looking at how can we support families this school year. And obviously this has been a very difficult year for all families across the entire region, not just with the pandemic, but the economic situation as well. And so what we have decided to do is purchase a book bag with supplies for every student pre-K through grade 12. The book bags are clear book bags, and inside those book bags are enough supplies to at least support the first month of school, hopefully. Families may have to buy additional materials after that point in time. And so if they go to our website, www.slps.org, they can click on where to go, what supplies will be in the book bag. I sent a letter out to my administrators this week indicating to them that they should not be asking families for anything at this point in time. We want to do our best to try to support families not having to purchase anything to come back to school. And so for the first month of school, that is not likely the case that they'll have to purchase anything. But the book bags are, as you can see, clear bags. The clear bags are not required, but they are something that we're giving away free on the first day for every single kid who comes. What happens if a kid comes 1 or 2 days late because of some other reason? The book bags will be there, but every kid will get a book bag. As I said before, pre-K through grade 12. There's a small packet inside the book bag as well for persons who might have personal items that they don't want other persons to see. They'll have a place for those things to be secure from persons being able to see what's in those things. So a great idea that the team came up with. The board supported us in terms of making that happen. We're using our dollars to do that, some of the ESSA funds that we receive, and so I think it's a great opportunity.
I think it's fantastic. So you're saying that all the kids need to do is just show up and their supplies are there. They don't need to come a separate time and pick these book bags up. They go to school.
They'll be there on the first day of school. They're not necessarily giving out at orientation. They'll be given out on the very first day of school when families start coming in.
Got it. So we have some questions coming in through the YouTube.
Fantastic.
And one of them says, does my incoming 9th grader start registering for their career pathway classes this year?
It is likely that the ninth graders won't actually start their career pathways until grades 11th and 12th. That's when the career pathways really take off. 9th and 10th are the basic courses that you have to take prior to taking the career pathway courses. So likely not till 11th and 12th grade will they be on the career pathways.
Got it. And we do have a follow-up question about the backpacks. So what should we do if we don't want to use the backpacks? Should we return them to the school for parents who have supplies already?
So a parent can simply notify us prior to school starting and saying, I have my own book bag and backpack and I don't want to use the district's, and we will not provide one for students on that first day of school. But I would think once students bring it home, if a family wants to return it back, they can return it back.
Okay. Another question, when do you expect the SIS system to roll over to the 2022-23 school year?
It is my understanding that the rollover has already taken place. That rollover should have taken place about a month ago because students had to be placed there for transportation purposes, so the rollover has taken place. It's my understanding, yeah, it had to take place because we have to do routing for transportation, so the rollover, I know for a fact, has taken place.
Okay. Got it. And if anyone has a follow-up question, that's what we're here for, is some back and forth. So if there's something that doesn't, quite sound right or you need clarity, please just put another comment here. And we do have quite a number of people who have submitted questions in advance, so we're going to try to get through those as well. And I did want to remind everyone that we want to make sure these are general questions. We don't want student-specific names or anything, just due to privacy reasons. So moving on, we have a ninth grader signing up for joining cheer and volleyball. When are they out?
So the volleyball and cheerleader season really, quite frankly, has already started. Persons being able to sign up. I would recommend that if a student who's starting ninth grade, obviously in a very new school, they need to contact the school principals and assistant principals are there now. They can give them enough information to tell them when they can come to start. Obviously, the football season's already started and they're practicing, and other sports like track. So if it's a new ninth grade student coming in, I would call the high school that their child is going to and get information from the office.
Okay. And if they haven't reached a principal or a teacher, they can reach out to the superintendent's office, or?
They can reach out to the superintendent's office or the athletic director's office.
All right. So next question is, why did you stop kids from wearing uniforms?
We have not stopped kids from wearing uniforms. Uniforms are at the choice of the parents at the school. There is a parent meeting that takes place before the end of the school year that determines if students are going to wear uniforms, and that's an individual school choice. It has nothing to do with the district. We give families the ability to wear uniforms, but it's a school site decision.
So how are those groups chosen, those groups of parents from within the school?
Normally what happens is the principal works through the PTO or the PTA. If a school already has a uniform policy in place, it normally rolls over from year to year. If a school is interested in starting one, that's when they normally do a vote to determine if they're going to have a uniform policy. If there's some resistance to a uniform policy at a school, at the end of the year, the parent-teacher organization should contact the principal and put it out for vote again. But we normally don't change it if there's not any kind of outstanding issues around the uniform.
Got it. And a follow-up to the cheer and volleyball, it was a typo that has been clarified. When are the tryouts?
Oh, the tryouts likely won't take place until students actually come back to school on the 22nd, and they'll probably during that week some notice will be provided.
Okay. So this parent says that they have called all summer and have not gotten information, but that's probably because it's not out yet?
Probably because it's not out yet, and depending on what school they're calling to. If they call the athletic director's office, we can get them that information. I'll put my number out as well, 541-1165. It's my cell number if they reach out to me. Obviously, I won't take all of the calls, but I'll make sure that they get in the right direction. If they leave a message or if they email me, I can make sure that they get a call back.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can we expect in-person enrollment events for schools in our neighborhoods where a large number of residents don't have easy access to transportation to get downtown?
We are doing enrollment at the school site for all grades at this point in time. The only grades that we are doing registration at central office will be pre-K ELL, and possibly special education students. But all enrollment at this point in time is being mandated at the school site. So they can enroll at the school site, grades pre-K through 12, with the exception of those students who might be, who have special needs.
And what are the days and hours if they need to go? Is it 8 to 5, 9 to 3? Which days is enrollment open? What are the business hours for each school?
Schools, I would call the school to find out. They normally do that. They normally establish and set that. The faculty comes back on Monday, and likely faculty will be tied up from 8 until 3. I would think it would likely be in the afternoon and likely some slots in the morning. But right now, schools are doing registration, from my understanding, every single day at the school site.
Okay, so pretty much any time that fits with a parent's schedule, they can go to that school in their neighborhood
to register. If they have an outstanding issue around it, they could call our office and we could find out what the problem is. But there should be registration taking place as we speak.
Okay, got it. So another question coming in is, will before and after care be provided for all elementary schools this year?
That's an excellent question, one that we have obviously addressed at the board level. Right now we are registering families online who are interested in before and after school care. This becomes an issue of capacity, meaning do we have enough adults to support the before and after school programs at schools. The surveys that we're doing now, not surveys, but the registrations we're doing right now, the last number I counted was 785, and this was as of yesterday, who are interested in before and after school care at the elementary level. Based upon what the numbers look at a particular school, then we'll know how many staff that we need to deploy or utilize for that. But at this point in time, the plan is we have enough dollars in support to do before and after school care at every single school. We have to have a minimum of 15. And so if we don't have 15 families who say I need before school care and it's only 1 or 2 or 3, we likely won't do that because the numbers are so small. But it's a 15-to-1 ratio, and we're looking to have it available at every single school. In some cases, some of our Arches partners are going to be managing that, but in most cases it will be our staff. So we are strongly encouraging our staff to do the before and after school care. They did last school year through the pandemic, and we're looking to see that they do the same thing again. So at this point in time, as I said, 785 as of yesterday. They can go online and indicate that they want before and after school care, and then we will know how many staff persons to apply to have available. And we plan on starting it on day 1, which is August the 22nd.
Okay, and what are the hours for before care and after care?
It's normally 2 hours before and 2 hours after the school day. And because we have varying times of school, it changes from school to school. Right.
Got it. Another question we have is, can we ensure that child-specific district emails, such as transportation emails, are sent to both parents on record? Currently, one parent here is only receiving, one parent in the household is only receiving child-specific emails. Who would they reach out to have that fixed?
Ms. Cheryl Van Noy's office, which is technology. We normally only respond to one email account, but that's a very, very specific question, and if the parent wants to reach out to me, I'll make sure that they get a response back from Ms. Cheryl Van Noy, who manages the emails account.
Okay, so for that parent, you may reach out to
Yes,
Dr. Adams
yes.
and
Yep.
get that information and get that issue fixed. Loading some more questions here. Why aren't Crocs considered appropriate school shoes?
Certain kinds of shoes create a safety concern for the district. So any open-toe shoes or open-heel shoes create those kind of concerns. And so we don't allow them to be worn in school because students can trip, fall, get injured, and there's safety concerns, and that's the reason why.
And that's a district-wide policy or a
That is-
school-to-school?
That's a district-wide policy. It's a uniform policy district-wide.
Is there math tutoring in the 9th grade in addition to math class? My child missed some 8th grade concepts and I guess needs some supplementary help.
Yeah, I think that's a question that's probably likely more specific to the school, so they want to call the school to find out. If there's a high need for it, we have enough funding to create tutoring available based upon the need, but that is a very specific question to that particular school. We don't necessarily offer tutoring across every single school. We do have it available for schools that make the request. There's funding, their title funding or general operating budget funding for before and after school tutoring to take place.
Anything being done about bullying and mental health?
Yeah,
I, yeah,
No,
I think
that-
that's a big one.
I think that is a very big one, quite frankly, and it's a challenge for all districts across the country as we deal with social media. Oh, so we do have full-time social workers in our buildings who will be supporting that notion, and we do have trauma-informed support as well. If a child is being bullied, we ask that be reported immediately so that we could address it. We don't know what we don't know. We can't address what we don't know. We are aware that there are incidents of bullying, and we will address them once we know about them. I would recommend strongly that you have a conversation with your child to have them report to you if they're being bullied for any reason, and to reach out to school administration as well as to the social workers or counselors to provide support in that area. But we have training that's taking place in our schools with our staff, and we're also providing that same opportunity for students, depending upon what grade level they're at, to make them aware of how they need to respond to bullying, and also to help them understand that bullying is not something that we support. The safety and security team will be doing in-services, if you will, sessions with kids around bullying. And so it's an ongoing issue that we have multiple ways to try to address, but it has to be reported to us. That's a key component. You can't assume that we know. You have to report it to us.
And from a board perspective, I will say that the school closures that we endured were supposed to free up more resources for mental health and counseling on staff. How is that going, filling those positions and making sure each school has nurses and counselors?
So at the board meeting on Tuesday, I will announce that at this point in time, we have a nurse assigned to every single school. There are 0 vacancies, knock on wood, at this point in time. We have 4 social work vacancies at this point in time. We anticipate that they'll be filled by the 22nd. We have all counseling positions have been filled, and we have about 20 vacancies as it relates to school resource counselors or officers, if you will. So from the school closure, we were able to fill all of those kinds of positions full-time in schools, and I think the board will be pleased that it seems that we have made some headway in terms of filling all of those positions, and we have a reading coach in every single one of our elementary schools as well. So the commitments we made from the notion of closing schools have been met this year. They were met before, we just didn't have the capacity of having people, and I think we have 5 vacancies as it relates to family community specialists, because some of those persons have moved up in positions, and so that's the last position that we say we would try to have full-time. And so really pleased to just announce that we seem to be making headway in all of those critical need positions.
So those are adults in the schools that
Yes.
children can go to directly if they're having an issue with bullying or need to talk to someone about mental health issues that they're having. They may be experiencing any difficulties with their learning. They can go to those individuals, and those individuals will be there full-time.
To give them full support, that is correct. No part-time at places. Social workers may be part-time in little small schools, but for the most part, all of those positions have been filled in support schools.
Well, that's great to hear. So a follow-up on after-school care. Is it first come, first serve? If too many kids register, will there be a lottery?
So at this point in time, we are working in an attempt to fill all requests that come. Obviously, if a school has 400 kids and there are 400 parents indicating before and after school care, that's really just extending school by two hours, so that's not the same. But at this point in time, we plan on filling every single request that comes at every single school, even if we have to ask the middle and high school teachers who don't have, and there's not a need for before and after school care. We will be trying to leverage some of those persons to go to the elementary levels to work for after school care, maybe not so much before school care, because those schools normally get out about 2 o'clock or 2:10, and the elementary schools are normally later schools, and so we will be recruiting some of those persons to work at the, as teachers take second jobs, those will be some of the second jobs that they may take with the St. Louis Public School District to do before and after school care at the elementary school sites.
And we have a couple more follow-ups on that regarding what if an elementary school partners with a group like the YMCA that has a charge for families to use before and after care? Will the district be providing additional care at those facilities because it's not cost-effective for some families?
Excellent question. Yes. If we have a YMCA group that has historically charged at a particular school, they will continue to charge and identify the 48 to 60 kids that they have licenses for those kids. If the numbers get to 65, 70, 80, then staff will be paid by the district for the overflow, if you want to call it that, from number 61 to 100 or whatever that number might be based on the need. So the before and after school care that parents pay for the first 48 or 60 will continue to be in place. For those families who cannot take advantage of that, we will be asking staff that we will pay to take the overage of kids that have not historically been part of those programs. And I could almost tell you exactly what 2 or 3 schools that's question is coming from. We discussed this yesterday with Dr. Brown, and it is our intent to take any kid who is not part of those programs to be picked up by the district.
Got it. Another follow-up on the SIS system. It says it's showing summer school 22 as the latest data viewable. When will parents be able to see that the 2022-23 data?
I'll get you an answer to that question. We'll put that in the FAQ that we respond to. I don't know the exact date from Mrs. Vanoy, but I will get you a response to that by the end of this meeting.
Okay, so if the person who posted that question would email the superintendent
Yes.
at supt@slps.org,
That is correct.
we'll get you an answer. And here is another question coming in about what is going to be done to minimize the spread of monkeypox once students come back, and how will that affect PE, seeing that it is spread through skin-to-skin contact?
So at this point in time, just got off a call with the health department, a number of superintendents. There were 7 cases that were said to us. There is not a concern at this point in time for spread-to-spread transmission. There is concern about sports like wrestling at this point in time, but they are not concerned about the spread of this disease at this point in time. We will be doing the cleaning that we always have done, the deep cleaning and wiping down and all of those kinds of things. We don't see this as a real challenge right now. The kind of precautions that we put in place for COVID will do us well as we look to do the same thing for something like monkeypox. But there are only 7 cases in the region right now, and we have not put any quote-unquote additional precautions in place as it relates to this after some consultation with the health department. So this is just about being educated around it. It does not, from my understanding, that there's maybe 1 case aligned to a kid, and that did not come through any kind of kid-to-kid transmission. So we are in constant communication with the health department, and we'll be taking directions from them as it relates to this disease, this virus rather, and any other viruses that might plague the district.
Okay, and we are posting monkeypox info
Yes.
on the COVID-19 page of the slps.org website. As more information comes available, that website will continue to be updated.
That is correct.
And here is a couple questions on extra resources for ESL students to pick up on language sooner. Are school gates sufficiently protected from outsiders? School safety question from the same person.
I think that's an excellent question. Are school gates sufficiently protected from outsiders? I can't say. I don't have a good response to that question because I don't know. I've not looked at every single gate, but we do believe that the schools are secure, and we do have adequate security around the schools as it relates to fencing. We are concerned about the lead in fencing that we will be addressing in the next, hopefully, 90 days. We did receive a grant from the State Department of Education through our lobbyists, working really hard to make that happen, our legislators rather. And so from a safety sense, in terms of lead, we will be addressing. In terms of are there holes in fences and those kinds of things, if we are aware of them, we close them up. But in terms of from that perspective, the answer is yes. No, I've not had an issue, quite frankly, that I can think of around safety, not a school not being safe as a result of an opening in a fence. If we are made aware of any kind of openings in fences, we'll do our best to close them. But outside of that, no outstanding issues that I can think of relative to the fencing around schools.
Okay, and I will add that I was at a Missouri School Boards Association board meeting. I'm the St. Louis representative, and that was a big focus, was how to make our buildings safe for students. And as you and I spoke on the phone
Yes.
earlier this week, we have some additional resources, I believe, from Missouri School Boards Association that could help if we do run into issues like that. We will definitely be
And I would
working
add,
for
Ms. Vowell, if a parent or a community person has a concern If they notify us of those concerns, we will immediately try to address them. But if you know something that I don't know, please make us aware so we can try to address it.
And who do they notify? Who should they call?
In this case, Square Watson, who is the Deputy Superintendent of Operations, will be the appropriate person. But again, if they forward the email to me, I can forward to the direct person and get a response quickly.
Okay. And if we could put that up in the chat, the superintendent email, so that those questions can be routed,
Yes.
or the appropriate parties.
Yes.
That would be super helpful. And so back to that other question about what are the extra resources for ESL students to pick up on language sooner?
Yeah, I'm not sure about extra resources. We do have an ELL department, and we do have staff that support those students. It would be my recommendation that they do as much as possible to try to familiarize themselves with the language, which is basically reading as much as they can, such that they can pick up the language. We have a really strong ELL program. Dr. Gonzalez does an excellent job in that area. If there's something very specific around that I can forward, I could connect them with Dr. Gonzalez, who could give them some more information around what they might be able to do or what resources might be available in the community that they can leverage.
Okay, and I have a parent representative who is writing questions for some people who cannot attend. So one of those is kind of a follow-up on the before and after care. What excludes a school from being enrolled?
Every elementary school is enrolled at this point in time. If there are not enough persons who want the service, then obviously we don't offer the service. If there are not enough staff persons from the school who are willing to do before and after school care, then that might be an indicator. For the first time this school year, as I said before, we're looking to leverage persons from other schools that might be able to meet that particular need. As I looked at the numbers on yesterday afternoon, some schools had only, and we only put this out on the 25th, and we're going to cut it off on August the 12th. That's the deadline because we want to have enough time. Well, we're going to run it all the way to the first day of school, but if you want transportation, you have to apply by August the 12th. If not, you're going to have to take care of your own transportation because the routing is a big issue for us. But at this point in time, they need to go online and apply, and then we'll know exactly how many people that we'll need for a particular school. But the only thing that would stop it would be not having enough staff or not having enough students who want to take advantage of it.
And do you have solid cutoff numbers for those, or
We do
is it
not.
on a case-by-case basis?
It's wide open right now. But we don't want to put a limit on anything at this point in time. We want to keep it wide open, and then we'll kind of pivot back based upon what we get.
Okay. And why are the schools who are already partnered with approved vendors able to supplement to address needs? Additionally, why do these families still have to pay for Y Care?
Because these schools were historical schools that were already tied to before we got deeply engaged last school year, and so we don't want to end those relationships. Right now we have enough funding to support before and after school care. If we get rid of the vendor, meaning that we cover, there's no cost tied to it, then when there's no funds available, the possibility is that vendor won't be available anymore.
Got it.
And so, and these were historical programs that were at schools already. The Y has already been at 3 or 4 schools. Orchard's programs have already been at schools. I think they were at 18 schools beforehand, and so they're going to go back to those schools. Orchards will cover those costs. I think in the case of Y and Sticks, parents were paying those fees. Mellencrot and Sticks, the parents were paying those fees, and they were already doing before and after school care. And so we don't want to necessarily impact their programs because they were their programs. We want to supplement their programs such that other kids can take advantage of it.
So SLPS will be covering those fees for students?
For students outside of the program costs that were originally in place at those schools. So,
Okay.
example, the Y had 60 kids at a particular school. Those 60 kids, parents will pay the cost. We will pick up for kids after that number. That's
Got
the
it.
intent right now.
And another question about pre-K. We have, why does pre-K end at 2:45 p.m. but other grades end at 2 p.m.?
It is my understanding that the pre-K program begins when the school day starts and ends when the school day ends. We have full-day pre-K. We don't have a part-time pre-K program. It's a full-day pre-K program. So unless there's a very specific school that somebody's referencing, I would love to know what school is ending pre-K before the regular school day.
Okay. So if you would like to submit that question, we will get a follow-up answer for you.
Yes, you can send it directly to me. But all pre-K programs should end at the same time that the regular school day ends.
Will there be a Meet the Teacher event at elementary schools?
That's a really good question. Schools are planning on having open houses over the next 2 weeks. I don't have the open house dates. We will put those on our website, but it is the intent for schools to go back to having open houses. The health department has said try not to have large-scale events, similar to what we did pre-pandemic, but we're going back to some modified open houses such that families can, to your point, meet the teacher, meet the school site administrators, and meet everybody.
And just a clarification, going back to the backpacks, are the clear backpacks required, or can a student have their own backpack?
Student can have their own backpack. We are offering these, obviously, because of safety concerns. We
Right.
want to try to offer the best book bag that we think will address the safety concerns that families have asked us about over and over and over again, but we would not be mandating that they have a book bag coming from the district.
Okay. And we have a question about safety officers in elementary schools. They would like to know if there will be safety officers in elementary schools or school resource officers.
So at this point in time, safety counselors is kind of the terminology we use because they do more counseling than anything else. At this point in time, we have 32 elementary schools. 20 of those schools will have safety counselors in the buildings. As we hire additional officers, we will place them in those elementary schools as well. But the intent is to have them in our elementary schools as well.
Okay. And what efforts have been made to establish healthier cafeteria meal options this year?
That's a really good question. The 2 or 3 students who are the students who are part of the superintendent's advisory have reached out to me about this last year, and we took recommendations and suggestions from them, and we tweaked some of the lunch menus and meals. I am hopeful that those tweaks that we made last year were satisfactory, and we'll be going back to get feedback from students throughout the year to make changes if necessary. So we are listening to students, and we are taking suggestions. We have 3 students who will be part of the superintendent's, who are part of the superintendent's advisory, who will be board members, quite frankly, this year. And they have made a commitment to listen to kids and get those comments back to us such that we could try to make changes based upon what they're hearing. So I would suspect that keep your ear to your email, because the email account will be going out for you to give feedback to them, who will therefore give feedback to us.
And we will talk more about the student representatives, but I did want to skip ahead a few questions because it looks like we do have a student asking a question. Can Clyde C. Miller not wear uniforms this year? I feel like we should be able to wear the clothes that we want and not a uniform.
I would suggest very strongly that that student reached out to the school administration for that conversation. Again, parents voted for school uniforms at school sites, maybe not every single parent. So uniforms are in place for a number of different reasons, and every school has their reasons. And so I would suggest that student reach out to Dr. Rouget and have a conversation with the administration.
Okay, and another follow-up on aftercare. So I'm going to read the question as it is. So schools with Y-Care, some families will have to pay and any overflow families would not pay. Shouldn't it be provided at no cost across the board and not once a program is full?
At this point in time, the plan is to have exactly what that parent said. Parents who are taking advantage of the program and have historically taken advantage of the program will be paying because they are making a commitment to the Y-Care program. The aftercare program that we will be doing will be supplementing excess needs at that particular school. And so at this point in time, that is the plan. We will go back and review that plan and have conversations with the school leadership at that school. But at this point in time, those parents who are part of the Y-Care program will cover the costs as they have in the past. Those families that are outside of that number, if there's a need for more, we will cover that cost. If we don't have a need for anything past 60 or whatever that number might be, then those parents will cover the cost for that.
And another question, follow-up on safety. What is the point of fences if the gates don't have locks?
Well, the purpose of fences, quite frankly, is to keep students safe, but we don't lock every single gate because families have to come in and out on a regular basis. And so, again, if there's a specific concern regarding a fence at a particular school or the overall notion of fences, we are a public entity and we do have to have persons have the ability to come in and out of our schools. And so we don't put locks on gates because schools are open almost 24 hours a day, especially at the high school and middle school level when you have sports programs. But if there's a very specific concern regarding the safety of a particular school or why a particular gate is not locked, we could address that. But we have to have gates open such that families could come in and out. Schools open as early as 5 o'clock in the morning for our food service staff to come in. And so we have to have gates open. I'm not clear about the question because I'm not sure if it's germane to a specific gate or is it just an overall question.
It doesn't say. So if that person would like to follow up with the
Yes,
superintendent,
they can do
the
so.
comment above that does have his email address there. And a lot of these are regarding that pre-K and school alignment, that person who had that question. So I'm going to ask you to follow up with
Yes,
Dr. Adams.
please. Are they simply indicating that the school day is earlier for pre-K students than other
Yeah,
students? Okay,
it says
all right.
Mason Elementary pre-K ends at 2:45 p.m. Kindergarten ends at 3 p.m.
Interesting. The first
So,
time I've heard that.
We will
Thank
have
you.
Dr. Adams follow back up with you on that.
Thank you.
And I did want to mention that a lot of this back to school information is going to be on the slps.org page. So it's slps.org/back to the number 2 school. So BACK number 2 SCHOOL, and you can find a lot of this information, but again, we're here to get into those really specific questions. So I hope that this is being helpful as getting to see how the district operates and see how the more, the smaller decisions are being made, the more minute details. So we are going to move to some of the pre-submitted questions. I don't want to leave you all hanging. I know that you've submitted answers or questions early. So will there be more bus drivers for the school year has been an overwhelming question.
Yeah, so at this point in time, we have a new vendor, Missouri Central, and we've been working really closely with them. We've been able to, as a result of using a new program, to reduce the number of routes that we might need moving forward. And so at this point in time, it seems that we have enough drivers to cover most of our routes. I'll use that word most because we've not started school yet, and they have not actually done the work in the city of St. Louis. They've done the work in the county, being part of the VIC program. The bottom line is, yes, we do think we have enough drivers to accommodate the routes that we have. There are some routes that we cannot accommodate, and so we're using some independent bus companies as well as cab services to do that. We've contracted with them to pick up the overage of routes that the Missouri Central cannot handle as of today. This is an ongoing process that we are monitoring really, really, really closely. Transportation information went out by email this week. Hard copies are going to be mailed to parents. They should get them next week, so they'll know what their routes are, and that's changing on a regular basis because people are giving us information. I moved from this address to this address over the summer. I moved. That all of those kind of intricacies have to be tweaked. So at this point in time, we think we have enough drivers, whether that's bus drivers, cab drivers, or van drivers, to get every kid to and from school. There's a small number of pre-K families that we're concerned about because we can't put some of the 3-year-old kids or 4-year-old kids in cabs. And so there's a small group of families that we still will be working with to try to accommodate them in terms of transportation. But for the most part, the 15,000, 16,000 kids that we transport have gotten route information and will be giving us feedback. And frankly, there's a call center with 7 persons taking calls every single day, starting on today's Thursday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, to try to accommodate any kind of questions that families have. So the easy answer, the short answer is yes, with some adjustments.
And can we put that call center number in the chat, and can you let us know what it is?
I don't have it offhand, but
Okay.
we'll make sure it's in the chat.
So I kind of wanted to consolidate some of these questions because we do have others coming in on the video, such as, will parents need to wait for a password to get a taxi for the student like last year if the bus is a no-show?
No, at this point in time, the routes that taxi cabs will be using or picking up will be the standard route. That kid will be on that route every single day. That's what, as it stands right now, at least in the first month of school. As more drivers come, we may push that kid from the cab back to a bus. But at this point in time, the cab services are dedicated routes for very specific kids because we don't have enough buses to pick up kids. That's the plan right now. They'll likely have a a number in the window, just like in the same cab driver that comes every single day. That's kind of what we're trying to make sure that happens. So Kelvin Adams would get a cab coming at 7:45 every day to his home, picking him up, dropping him off, and the kid may come back on the cab or come back on the bus. But that's the plan right now.
So it would normally be the same cab driver?
Yes, yes.
So that they develop a
That's
relationship
exactly
with the
right.
child?
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
And can you tell us a little bit about the e-link and the app we will be using for
Yeah.
GPS tracking of transportation?
Yeah, we are working through that at this point in time. More information will be coming. We're still tweaking it. The app, I've been using the app for the last 2 or 3 days, playing with it myself to determine how it works, where you can actually put your address in or an address in, and it'll tell you what the route might be. That information can be received from the call center, and we will be also putting that information out likely on Tuesday night at the board meeting, but also sending something out to families such that they can have it on our website and also through our parent digest that we send out as well. So more to come on that. We're still playing with it. We're 2 weeks and 1 day away from the beginning of school. So next week, a lot of information will be going out to kind of help families navigate some of the kinds of things I'm talking about right now.
All right. And let's see, what have we not answered? Will the students have extracurricular activities when they return to school?
Yes, we started extracurricular activities at the end of last school year, and at this point in time, we think 100% of our extracurricular activities at the elementary, middle, and high school level will be taking place.
And when will parents be receiving the individual schedule for their schools?
That's a school site decision. I would recommend that they call their school to find out, and this is mainly at the middle and high school level that happens, and normally schools have orientations and families pick up these schedules at the orientation session. So I recommend they reach out to their individual school, different dates and times based on the school.
Okay, and so they should reach out directly to the principal?
Directly to the school site, they call the school could give them that information.
Okay. What else do we have here that has not been covered? This is a good one. How can parents best support teachers at the start of the school year?
I think that's a really excellent question. I think the best way to support teachers is to go to each school's individual website. Schools normally have information on their website that can say how you could assist. But I think the greatest way is, from my perspective, is to get your child ready for school by making them aware of how important school is, how important it is that they are in school, that they're there every single day. I think kids have to come with a readiness around being prepared for school themselves. So I think that's the best possible way. I would also recommend that they try to get as much information about the school day and the kinds of things they need to be successful in school from the school sites.
And what are we doing for parent-teacher conferences to accommodate parent schedules, to make sure they have that interaction with teachers? Are we doing those this year in person?
Yes, we are having in-person parent-teacher conferences at this point in time. They're on the calendar. If you go to the district's website, you can get the information on the district calendar. I don't have the exact day. I think one is in October, and the second one is in March, I think. And it's on a Friday, and teachers are available for those kind of conferences that take place as we have traditionally done in the past. Sometimes through the pandemic, we went through websites. We went through Zoom and Microsoft Teams. This year, it's going to be back to in person.
Okay.
At this point in time, obviously, if something happens with the pandemic, we'll make some adjustments. But at this point in time, 100% in person.
And another related to teachers question: what are the qualifications for teachers working with children on the spectrum?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. The state requires those teachers to be certified in CrossCat, and so as the public may know, there's a nationwide issue around having certified teachers in our country. St. Louis Public School District is no different. We have, and I will report on Tuesday, that we have about 146 vacancies of teachers right now that we're working aggressively to fill. And so as we are able to get certified staff, and if we don't find certified staff, we try to train them to be prepared. And so what I would indicate to anybody who is concerned about the quality of instruction that takes place in a building, I would start with a conversation with the principal, but understand that training has taken place for all of our staff, and those teachers who are special education teachers have been trained as well to address kids who are on the spectrum.
And will teachers know that each child is different and require different direction and patience, such as an IEP?
Yes, that's the purpose of the individual education plan. Teachers have to determine what the needs of kids are based on that plan, and then try to make sure that those students are receiving those very specific supports.
And here's a broad question, but a good one. Will the teachers focus on the whole child?
Yeah, that's the intent. I mean, obviously, it's a work in progress, because obviously our young people come to school with so many different challenges and concerns, and our teachers are trying to navigate between 25 kids, 22 kids, 30 kids in some cases, and really working hard to try to address the individual needs of kids. And that's a very difficult job. And so teachers are working in an effort to do that. If there are very specific concerns that parents have that they're not getting that kind of support, they need to reach out to their school principal and find out how they can get more support.
And if they are not getting any information from the school principal, or the communication is delayed, they would then reach out directly to you.
To the superintendent's office, and I can get an answer to the questions that they might have. There are network superintendents that manage anywhere from 10 to 12 schools. They are my point of contacts in terms of getting information to parents and solving any kind of parent issue that comes to the table.
What is new this year, if anything, in the treatment of special needs children at SLPS?
I don't know that there's anything brand new. Obviously, the pandemic has impacted all of our kids, so we know that we're going to have to do a much better job of trying to support kids who have special needs, whether those needs are identified by IEP or 504 plan. And so if there are outstanding issues and families are feeling that they're not getting support, we need to know about it. We have people, Candace Boyd, who's responsible for the special education department, and we have someone, Dr. Claire Crapo, who's managing 504s. So if there are outstanding issues, families feel they're not getting support, contact my office. I'll put you in contact with the appropriate staff that can respond quickly to your questions.
And do we have any ESSER dollars? I think we had some ESSER dollars tied to professional development.
Yes, we do have ESSER dollars tied to professional development for all of the kinds of things that we're kind of addressing right now. Alive and Well does some of the training with us, but there's outside parties that will be working with us. We have 3 days of PD starting next week, and some of these things will be really provided to staff for professional development. And in addition to that, individual schools will be having PD as well starting next week. Again, next week is when our staff comes back to work on the 8th. All teachers, all security, all aides are coming back to work on the 8th. And they have 10 days of professional development. Some days are district-wide days, some days are school site days, but some of the kinds of things that questions are coming about will be provided during those professional development sessions.
I will just say I really appreciate the mindfulness that we have spent our ESSER dollars in such a way that it's not just some funding and then it's gone.
That's right.
But professional development is a thing that lasts.
Yes,
Building improvements
yes.
are things that last. So I appreciate your mindfulness and the administration's mindfulness in this.
And the fact that schools were given very specific dollars for what they thought they needed, and they're using those dollars in a way they thought they needed. Were needed. We still are getting some flexible furniture in, but I'm really proud to say that a lot of the flexible furniture has come in, and hopefully kids will get an opportunity to see what that means for their learning style, what that means for their ability to interact with their classmates, and what that means for teachers to be able to interact with them as well.
Okay, and we have another question about uniforms. Are they required? So that has been answered, but if you would like more information on whether your school has a uniform policy, reach out to them, right?
Reach out to them, but we're going to put the names of the schools that have uniforms, policies, if you will, require uniforms on our website. There are about 40 of the 64 schools that require, quote unquote, uniforms, and so they can reach out to those schools individually to find out what the specific uniform color or shirt might be, and we will work with families to try to address if they have an outstanding need. We don't want the uniform to be a barrier in terms of a kid coming to school.
And we do have a website for other specific things, the slps.org/code of conduct. So you
Yes.
can find out the behavior policies, the dress code policies, everything
correct.
that's required to be a successful student. What are Carlane's uniform colors? Does Carlane supply the school shirts?
Again, I'll let them contact the school directly. we have some, some information here that kind of addresses that, but I don't want to get into individual schools. They can contact Carlene directly to get that information such that they'll know exactly what Carlene is requiring. As a matter of fact, there's a professional development taking place at Carlene this morning with principals, so I know that they're there and can answer the questions.
Okay. Are we considering changing the bell time to a later time? I know this has been a question that's been talked about for years. So
Right.
it says 7:10 is a painful time for both students and parents, especially in the winter.
So at this point in time, we are not making any changes for bell times. There's only one school, and that's ICA, the alternative school that we might be making a tweak with time. But all other schools, the times that ended last school year will be the same times. As we continue to have challenges around transportation, there is a likelihood as we move forward, maybe not this year, but for next year, to do something around bell times to try to address reducing the number of buses and having kids go on metro buses. We've had some conversations around that, and that might be might be one way to try to address this overall transportation challenge. Not going to do anything in that space this year because obviously getting drivers and working with a new company is not something we want to do all at the same time, but it is something we're looking forward to for next school year as a possibility to try to get more students on a bell time that's more accommodating than 7:10.
We have some more questions from the chat. I'm trying to kind of consolidate and get everybody. And I wanted to mention we will have another follow-up session. So if you didn't
Yes.
get your question answered, this is not a one-time thing. We're going
Right.
to try to do this again after school starts
That's
as well
correct.
to
That's
address
correct.
any issues. But one question we have is, will the school year start off as rough as it did last year? And
So we plan on.
what are we doing different?
Last year we had a lot of challenges around vaccinations, quarantining, contact tracing. It is likely that some of those things are not going to be in place this year. Mask wearing, all of those kinds of things have been, as you know, the CDC, which has been our guiding force for the kinds of things we put in place, will likely not be as onerous as they were last school year. So we are really hopeful that that will not be as much of a challenge. Plus, we are working with our transportation company to do a better job of communicating the concerns early on and addressing those concerns early on. So I'm going to say no. Last year was a very difficult year for all of us, and we believe that this year will be a much smoother year. Will it be perfect? In no way, shape, or form. But we hope and believe that we will be able to address a lot of the challenges that predated us last school year now, such that they're not problems for us at the beginning of the school year.
So have we done any upgrades to classrooms or furniture or programs that will make things easier and more
Yeah, the
accessible?
answer is yes, yes, and yes. We have done some work in buildings, painting as well. We had some flooding, as the community knows, and everybody was probably on pins and needles as I was last night. But as the flooding, 42 of our 64 buildings have sustained some flood damage, and we are working through that. We believe that there will be flexible furniture, if not in every single school, in most schools, because that's what they ordered, and most of that has come in. And we've also done some, as I say, for more painting and other kinds of things in buildings to try to make them more appealing to students. So, as I said before, the bond passed on Tuesday, and $160 million are going to be supporting our schools. We likely won't see a lot of results of that this year, but you will see the process of planning to try to address some of those outstanding issues of doors, of painting, of water fountains, all of those kinds of things next school year.
And going back to a follow-up on the start of school with masks, what is the overall health safety for everyone, i.e. masks, cleanings, et cetera, related to being safe?
So at this point in time, the district will not be requiring masks. It's not required by the CDC or the city of St. Louis. It will be optional, masks optional for staff and students. Again, we are looking at the rate of the vaccine in the community, and we'll be making adjustments as the CDC or the health department says. We will likely not likely, but we will not be doing contact tracing as well at this time. If a student is reported to be with the virus, that student will have to be out of school for 5 days. When that student comes back to school on the 6th day, that student will have to wear a mask up until day 10. But we will not be doing contact tracing. So the parents are going to have to self-report to us. Staff will have to self-report to us if they have contracted the virus, and they will have to be excluded from school for 5 days. If there are issues around having fever and all of those kinds of things, we're asking families to keep kids home, 100%. Keep kids home. We don't want any ill student coming to school, or for that matter, any ill staff coming to school. So they'll see a precipitous change in how we are addressing this virus based upon new CDC guidelines. We will not be as stringent as we were last year because the CDC guidelines have lifted for this particular virus. So those are some of the kinds of things that I'll be talking about on Tuesday, and obviously parents will be getting this information from the district office as well as from the school.
So how are students going to make up their work as a follow-up during those 5 days?
Excellent question.
Is there going to be a virtual component?
Excellent question. We are still determining how best to address that. Don't have an answer for you right now on that because we're still working with my academic team as well as what the state around that. We're looking at a couple of options that I will likely not be putting out until next week. But we are looking to try to determine how we can support that kid for 5 days while they're not getting instruction. There is a component that the state is allowing districts to put in place, and we are seeing how practical that is for us to implement next school year. So more to come on that. Fortunately enough, we don't have to make that decision today. We have until the 22nd to make that decision, but we will be coming up with a recommendation about how we address that.
And as another follow-up, are staff and or volunteers being mandated to have booster shots?
At this point in time, the board's policy requires that. There is a likelihood that a recommendation will be coming on Tuesday that might change that. The board has to weigh into that. But at this point in time, as of today, we are following the guidelines that the board put in place. And those guidelines are that staff would have to be vaccinated, as well as volunteers and contractors as well.
And I guess there's another follow-up for absences. Will virtual days still be available for snow days?
That is an option that is still available at this point in time, yes.
Will we have dual, let's see, where did the question go? Is there a dual college credit program at the high school event, at the high school level, sorry?
Yes, there is.
And that's for every high school?
Students have the access at every high school for that particular program. The answer is yes. At every single high school, students can take advantage of the dual program. It's called Finish Line and Early College Academy.
What else do we have? Does anyone else have questions? We got about 2 minutes left. I want to make sure I got everybody's advanced questions. Will we have an opportunity to tour the school, see the classrooms when we meet the teacher?
Open houses starting next week and the week after. Schools will be sending us a list, and we'll be putting that list on the website. But yes, there will be open houses taking place at the elementary, and orientations normally take place at the middle and high school level. And it's school specific, so it's not, all schools may not be doing it, but schools determine if they need to have an open house or do orientation.
And how do I register for Edmentum?
Edmentum, if they reach out to my office, I can reach them out to Dr. Smith, quite frankly, or Dr. Natasha Mitchell is the person responsible for Edmentum this school year. If they reach out to my office, and they can go online as well. I don't have the exact www.slps place to go, but if they go to that place and search for Edmentum or
slps.org/virtual, is that the one?
Yes, that's the one. Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Separate from virtual BOE, which is what we're watching right now. So they do the online application, and then they can reach out to someone in staff?
That's correct.
Okay. So what else will be different this year?
What else will be different?
What do we have to look forward to this year?
I think we're looking forward to a great year, quite frankly. I'm really excited about this school year. Students have worked really, really hard over the last 2 years just to survive the pandemic. And I am hopeful that they'll get back to a sense of normalcy. When I say normalcy, I mean a normal school day, normal routine. And obviously the things we've learned as a result of the pandemic, how to do a better job around virtual instruction, how to give kids different kind of options, the additional resources that have come as a result of ESSA, before school and after school programs. I'm just really excited about what's going to happen this school year. Our parents deserve it, our community deserves it, and our quite frankly, our students do. So really excited about the school year. Any questions or concerns, please reach out to myself, reach out to board members. As you know, you're going to make yourself available as well, and the board always contacts me, and we try to get answers to families as quickly as possible.
And I just wanted to welcome, coming up at our new meeting, we will have 2 new board members, but we will have, more importantly, 2 new student representatives for the first time. That is Layla Al-Hajeri of Collegiate High School, Sonali Sharma of Metro High School, and Raekwon Strickland of Central VPA. And they're going to be joining the board for our open sessions as non-voting members, but fully speaking to bring us the perspective of their fellow students. So that's a bylaw that we passed before the pandemic, and then everything went crazy, so we're looking forward to bringing their voice as well so we can make more informed student-centric decisions. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for joining us, and again, we will come up with another date to rehash what we have learned and bring new information, and if there are any unanswered questions, please send those to the superintendent's email address. We will get back to you, or join us for the next live session. So stay tuned for that, and thank you to everyone, especially the Parent Action Council, who sort of encouraged us to get this started.
Well, thank you, Ms. Vowell. I think you did an excellent job in terms of managing the questions, and look forward to doing this again.
You had the hard part of answering the questions, so great job to you as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you.